Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, the black and gold standard for Pittsburgh Steelers coverage. Now, here are your hosts, Joe Kuzma and Brian E. Roach.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. My name is Joe Kuzma, and the concussion to my David Carr, as always with me, Mr. Brian E. Roach. Maybe that's kind of a tacky joke, Brian, but I think there's seriously something messed up with Mr. Carr, and I couldn't wait to talk about it.
You know, I'm now going to make the tradition of attempting to revamp your analogy, and so you, my friend, are the ravishing Rick Rude to my Jake the Snake.
But you know what? We're getting way off track here.
and I have absolutely no idea what the hell I'm talking about. If Tina hadn't fed me those names, I wouldn't even know who the hell they are.
Well, you tongue-tied my brain when it came to the pro wrestling stuff, because I'm like, wait a minute, did Jake the Snake and Rick Rude actually wrestle each other? I think they did. I think he threw his big python like on top of them, but he had countless feuds with guys like Macho Man Randy Savage and things of that nature. But on topic, let's segue from that and say I want to drop a big elbow on Mr. David Carr. David Carr got drafted 2 years before Ben Roethlisberger. And guess who's still playing, and guess whose career ended back in 2012 after playing for 5 teams and throwing more picks to interceptions when you're in the league. When he was number 1 overall pick, the Houston Texans. This guy was supposed to be a walking, living, breathing god in the NFL, and he's anything but. But in case people don't know why we're talking about David Carr, why are you bringing up this old relic? Well, it's not because his brother is playing, in the NFL for the Raiders. It's because he came out with like a top 10 list of the best or top, or who he felt are the top quarterbacks in the NFL. And as you may suspect, there was something amiss with his rankings as to why we would be speaking about this on a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast. And I think it has to deal with where Ben Roethlisberger ended up on that list.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, as you said, if they haven't figured it out by now, Carr essentially is saying that Big Ben is no longer a top 10 quarterback in the league, which means he was outside of the top 10, which I think even in most other analysts' minds, that's an absurd notion. But, as you said, being the concussion to your David Carr, maybe he's just concussed.
I think, I don't know, man. He ate paint chips or something has gone wrong. Maybe it was, maybe they used some type of paint that they weren't allowed to on the helmets back then before Ben entered the league. I think, as I put out on Instagram, it was something to the effect of, I called him salty, but I think that just he's jealous. He's bitter. That's the best way to maybe put it. Now, I've got David Carr, or I want to keep saying Derek Carr, because I don't even remember who David Carr is. That's very, very, not very often on this show am I so disrespectful to someone, but I feel disrespected by association of, being involved, talking about the Steelers and all this and that you would leave somebody that's a future Hall of Famer off of this list. Now, let's talk about who's on this list for a second.
Yeah.
Tom Brady, I'm cool with that. Aaron Rodgers, cool with that too. Drew Brees, Derek Carr.
The wheels come off right there. That's where the wheels come off. And they come off big time. What has Derek Carr, your little baby brother, ever done so far? 1-0. He's 1-0. He whined like a girl when he broke his leg. He's done nothing.
Well, wait a minute. But wait, there's more. Okay, Russell Wilson, I'm actually okay with that. If you're going to do a top 10, Matt Stafford, he could probably squeak in there. I remember we did this exercise because we were trying to figure out just how not elite Joe Flacco was. He didn't make this list. Don't worry. Not even a spoiler here. Phillip Rivers, okay, I could live with that. Matt Ryan, down year. I certainly, he's better than half of the league at least. Cam Newton. Now, Cam Newton's interesting because he's a leader. And he's known, he usually doesn't get respect like Ben does. He's not the most accurate quarterback, but he's a big guy. He doesn't go down easy. Everybody knows him for, rushing touchdowns and stuff. I mean, he was literally Superman, about 2-3 years ago when they had that awesome Super Bowl run where he had Jericho Cotchery as like his top wide receiver, I believe. I mean, I could respect having Cam Newton near the top 10 if he kind of squeaks in. Now, Jimmy Garoppolo, you want to talk about what have you done? Oh, he was Tom Brady's backup. So we talk about like legacy picks. So we talk about the top 100 and that type of garbage, and the NFL top 100, that is, and how guys get in and how guys are ranked there and things of that nature. Jimmy Garoppolo, really, okay. So they were playing very aggressive. They were already mathematically eliminated. They were the second team eliminated to Cleveland, I think, out of the playoffs last year. And granted, things looked nice, but they were able to just do whatever they wanted. I want to see it in September and October of this year before I become any kind of truther. And then, just like Dak Prescott, I need to see it again in 2019 before Jimmy Garoppolo over Ben Roethlisberger. Okay, let's take the names themselves. This is the top 10. And I'm like, Jimmy Garoppolo, Derek Carr, ain't no way. I could take Wilson. I'll take Brady. Aaron Rodgers coming back from an injury, but he's done plenty to maybe be in that conversation. Not a maybe. Drew Brees, okay, future Hall of Famer. Stafford, sorry, maybe no, not over Ben, not in a million years.
Not a chance.
Rivers, what have you done? Your teams are garbage, but he's been an Iron Man. He's been good, but. This is kind of like, he's not like Dan Marino good, where you're going to be talking about him being the greatest of all time to somebody who wins a lot of Super Bowls in the same era of which he played. So Rivers, sorry, gone. Matt Ryan, nope, get out of here.
Nope.
Cam Newton, nope. I called him Superman. Nope. He's not Ben. You know what I mean? So
absolutely.
Let me read this quote, Brian, and then you could give your little reaction here. He says, "Why is Ben Roethlisberger off my list? Yes, he's a future Hall of Famer. Gee, you think? And there's no doubt he can still help the Steelers. Gee, you think? But he has the most talented skill players in the league on his unit, and that pair, Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell, makes him look great 14 seasons in. I don't think Big Ben could win a ton of games without them at this stage in his career." Was this guy paying attention to like some of the stuff that's been going on throughout Ben's career? I think this is just ridiculous. Like, it's not like he had Le'Veon Bell all the time. Le'Veon Bell got hurt in certain spells. There was a period of time where they got into the divisional championship with and see what he did without Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell. You know what? I think the people in Pittsburgh, at least, and this pains me to say this, Brian, that Landry Jones isn't in this top 10 list because he could throw the ball to Antonio Brown or hand it off to Le'Veon Bell. This is, I'm trying not to cuss, this is blasphemy.
Yes, it's absurd. First of all, let me just, you remember, I think at least 2 years ago at this point, I wrote a series of articles about who made who. Is Ben making his receivers better, which he's always done, or is Antonio Brown making Ben better? And it's a combination of all things. Look, AB makes catches that nobody else can make. But you know why he's able to make those catches? Because Ben puts the damn ball, pardon me, where, where nobody else can put it. Go back through and look at the touchdowns from last year and look at even just look at the playoff game that they lost and the 5 touchdowns that were thrown in that game. That those balls had to be placed perfectly. It's not just a function of Antonio Brown out-muscling guys or out-positioning guys. He's in a position where even though he's covered, Ben puts the ball where the guy can't get to it, and only AB can. It's, does he benefit from that guy? Yes, he does. Does it decrease his abilities? Absolutely not. Look, as you ran through that list, I just need to talk about, Derek Carr a little bit. I have to. I want to look at let's just look at Derek Carr's quarterback ratings for the last 4 years, right? And 76.6, 86.4, 96.7, 91.1. Ben's been better every year. Completion percentage, Ben's been better. Winning, Ben's been better. There is absolutely nothing to state that Derek Carr is better than any of the guys below him.
No.
Or Ben Roethlisberger. I get it. He's your brother, but your placement of him at number 4 in the league completely invalidates your list and makes you a moron.
It's because John Gruden's there. He's going to just put everything over the top. Take it to the limit. You know what I mean? Let's take a look at this. Ben Roethlisberger has been, now, I hate saying Pro Bowl because even Trevor Siemian made a Pro Bowl. Andy Dalton has been in the Pro Bowl. But, okay, you got at least, it's supposed to acknowledge who the all-stars in the league are. And Ben has been in the Pro Bowl for the last 4 consecutive years. And over that time, even we'll go back to 2013. Bell's rookie year, and Bell didn't even play all of his rookie year either. It took him like 2-3 games to get on the field, and Ben has thrown 4,261 yards. That was 2013. Now you get into his Pro Bowl years. He threw for almost 5,000 yards in 2014. Was obscene. 2015. A little bit less, but then again, he only played 12 games, 3,900 yards, 3,800. He didn't play 2 games in 2016. Last year, 4,251 yards and 28 touchdowns to 14 interceptions, of which 5 of those, as we know, went against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Yeah, stuff happens. Doesn't happen very often with Ben. This is like besmirching the legacy of Ben Roethlisberger with, I just seriously think that, David Carr looks at some of these guys. Well, he put Rivers in there. He didn't put Eli Manning in there, but I don't think Eli Manning is on Ben's level either. I think Eli Manning could be a future Hall of Famer. I mean, he won 2 Super Bowls. They beat the Patriots when they were undefeated in the Super Bowl. There's something to be said about that. But are you going to say like Eli Manning doesn't win a Super Bowl because David Tyree doesn't catch this? Well, Tom Brady doesn't win a Super Bowl if Marshawn Lynch runs the football.
Yes.
You can make these arguments all day long for this stuff. So how many more arguments, how much do you put in a positive versus the negative column? When you talk about guys who could put the ball where it needs to be, like in that postseason game and that loss to the Jaguars, okay, I think Brady can do it. I think Rodgers can do it. I think Drew Brees can do it. I don't know that even anybody else on that list can put the balls in the same place yet. Ben Roethlisberger is not on said list.
Yeah, just another example. There's 2 examples that are prime in that game. The over-the-shoulder throw to Martavis Bryant for a touchdown. That is absolutely ridiculous. And the ball, there's really 2 or 3 balls to Antonio Brown during the game, but the ball where everybody assumes AB's out of bounds, the throw has to be perfect to allow Tony Toe Tap to tap his toes. If the throw's not where it needs to be, AB can't do his toe tapping magic. And yes, as I said, it is a symbiotic relationship to a certain extent. And, if I want to pick one guy off this list who has not benefited from it and still maintained a high level of performance, it's Phillip Rivers, because he's played with limited, receiving course, but he's had Antonio Gates forever.
Keenan Allen too, though. Although he gets hurt, but Keenan Allen had a lot of catches last year.
Well, and then the other one's Russell Wilson. Even though he's had halfway decent receivers, he's had no offensive line, so he's had an absolute nightmare the last few years. Look, Matt Stafford had Megatron and couldn't win.
I know.
Give me a break with the Matt Stafford thing. Matt Ryan blew a 35-point or whatever it was lead. I don't even want to hear about Matt Ryan anymore. and Cam Newton is Cam Newton. He is a good quarterback. He is not on the level of Roethlisberger or some of these other. If Roethlisberger isn't 4 on this list, the list is ridiculous. I think he's above Russell Wilson. I think he's above everybody else on this list. But putting Derek Carr, a 4-year guy, in here, putting Garoppolo, a no-name nothing at this point, I'm sorry, I agree with you. It's the end of the year. You played well. That's fantastic. Show us what you got when it means something. When the teams playing against you actually care a lot. Let's see what happens when you get into a playoff game or when you're under pressure because the win matters. Then I'll talk about Jimmy Garoppolo. But this is the most – I get aggravated with the analysts often. I don't like Chris Collingsworth. I don't like Phil Simms. There are many of them that I don't like. David Carr may have just ranked himself in the Hall of Fame of moronicism. There you go. I made up my word for the day.
It's a perfect word to describe him, though.
Because this list is moronic.
Well, okay.
Well, let me say one more thing.
Yeah.
You know the thing, because I said this when we put that you put that image together. There are certain body parts we all have that everybody has one, and they're like opinions.
Yes.
There you go.
Yes, and just to give you guys a visual, Brian photoshopped that onto David Carr's the orifice that should be his mouth was actually the one where the food comes out instead of going in. So, but you know what? Does Antonio Brown have 110 catches in one season, 129, 136, 106, and 101 without Ben Roethlisberger?
No.
Michael Vick couldn't even find the numbers 8 or 4, let alone 84 when he was on the field with the Steelers a few years ago. Those guys could not connect. If you're going to, I want to see the same things. This is like the same arguments we make as to whether or not you could have a platoon of running backs or just Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell's still a special player, and I think more so as a receiving back. I don't know that he was ever been had a lot of breakaway speed, but he sure can break tackles, okay? But what does him running the football, what's that got to do with Ben Roethlisberger being one of the most accurate, deep passing quarterbacks of all time, or being the only guy with 3 500-yard passing games? You have to be completely out of. This is what I really think. I think David Carr was making this list, and somehow he had a spreadsheet of all the names, and he accidentally went to hit Control S or Control C or Control X for one of these shortcuts, and accidentally put a letter in the self value where Ben Roethlisberger's name was, and he got skipped over. And now he's got to backpedal on this and try to come up with all these asinine reasons as to why Ben's touchdowns, 28 touchdowns, that's tied for 4th most in his career for a season, I believe. And definitely last season was his 4th most passing yards. And you're going to say, well, he can't get it done. Well, I understand. He wasn't supposed to get it done when he didn't have Le'Veon Bell or didn't have Antonio Brown or didn't have Martavis Bryant or Heath Miller retired, or give us any other number of reasons why Ben isn't supposed to do whatever he's supposed to do. And on top of that, he hated his offensive coordinator. If anything, you would think that the guy's going to be even better this year. I think the Garoppolo thing, Jimmy G, the Prince Ali, whatever his nicknames are, I got to see more from the pretty boy. There's an awful lot of hype for a Patriots Tom Brady backup, and there's been a lot of that hype too. Jacoby Brissett, effective with the Colts last year. Not a superstar, not an all-pro, effective. But we've gone through some of these guys that they've had. What did Brian Hoyer ever end up doing? He stunk most of the time. Nobody talks about him coming off of that tree. Matt Castle, when he stepped in for Brady, was amazing. What kind of career did he have after that? He bounced around as much as David Carr did. We talked about, what about Rohan Davey? There's a great guy that they drafted. And then there's Ryan Mallett. I mean, I don't know when people are going to stop becoming enamored. This kind of reminds me of okay, so the 49ers, well, they got Steve Young, who came, he was drafted in the USFL, and they had him behind Montana. Montana got hurt. You had to choose between a younger or older guy, but whoever had the most upside, blah, blah, blah. So Young's in there. But then everyone was clamoring over guys like Steve Bono and Elvis Gerback that they had there. This was the big, we're going to get something off of this quarterback tree, and the fruit shall flourish and be ripe. And sometimes it's just rotten. The Garoppolo thing is just junk. Matt Ryan is not consistent enough. Stafford, okay. So they decide to throw the ball 500 more times in that offense because they can't run the ball at all. These are some just really bad picks. I think Ben, what was he, 18 in the NFL Top 100 this year? Finally. Yeah. There were very few guys that were ranked ahead of him. I know Brady was, I know Breeze was, and I believe Rodgers was as well. He was definitely in the top 5 of the quarterbacks. Russell Wilson was either just directly above or below. I pretty much agree with that. If it really is the players that are saying whatever, you're going to be hard-pressed for me to find 4 guys, let alone a 5th guy, that's better than Ben Roethlisberger in this league.
Yeah, and there's another aspect to that. Look at the guys who have left. Ben made Mike Wallace. He got him paid. What did Mike Wallace do after he left? Nothing.
Collected a paycheck.
Not much. Mm-hmm. Yeah, collected paychecks. Antoine Randall L. tried to leave to go to Washington. Ended up, essentially being a punt returner only. Never really sniffed the receiving pieces. Nate Washington had a decent enough career with the Steelers that when it was time for him to leave, he helped Emmanuel Sanders get paid. Now, Emmanuel Sanders has had a solid career in Denver, but remember, he had Peyton Manning. He wasn't as solid for many years.
Yeah.
Jericho Cottrey, who was at the tail end of his career and was a great possession receiver for the Steelers, left and went someplace else and disappeared. It wasn't the same guys. Ben also makes receivers better because he places the ball where they can make the best, approach to it, where they can get it in their hands, where they can catch it.
You mean like Santonio Holmes?
Santonio Holmes. What happened to him after he left? He went to the Jets and was still high. So he didn't. I love Tone. I love Tone because he's a Buckeye and a Steeler, and I will forever say that there is with Ben a perception that receivers are always the best part of his game. But I'm telling you right now, it was absolutely ridiculous that he wasn't the MVP of that Super Bowl. The throw was better than the catch.
Let's not forget some other guys that have come and gone. Like the Steelers were actually able to trade and get something for Sammy Coates because of Ben Roethlisberger inflating him for a couple games. And, there's other guys, too, that he makes look superhuman, like a Kobe Hamilton or a Darius Hayward-Bay or any number of these players. It's a little bit shorter of a topic because we've got the holiday hangover preceding and proceeding here as we head toward the 4th of July here. So, but we definitely wanted to address this because sometimes you get something that just gets under your skin so bad. You got to itch. You got to scratch the itch. And he's definitely an itch, so to speak, on my backside. Yeah. So we all know how good Ben is. Everyone listening to this knows how good Ben is. I just think it was a fair rant. And if you didn't happen to see it because, you don't pay attention to the NFL Network during the summer, this is the reason you shouldn't pay attention to it sometimes.
Absolutely.
So we got some other stuff coming up. I think we're going to start looking at some of the AFC North opponents individually, and then some of the other opponents the Steelers have. So we're gonna mix that in. I hope you enjoyed Terry's little spiel. She's gonna have some more about she's a traveling girl, and she's got to see her Steelers on Sundays, and sometimes she doesn't happen to be in sunny Southern California. Though we're getting sunny everywhere right now. I think like a nuclear bomb's dropping on this part of the globe.
It's hot.
Yeah, 90, 100 degrees. I didn't ask for this. It's like I'm in Ohio. I'm not in Florida. I'm not in Guatemala or something. I don't know. Is it warm in Guatemala? I'm just assuming there. I assume
so, yes.
It's in Central America. I think it's warm there.
I'm sure it's warm and humid.
We still got the helmet-worthy thing going. We've decided to run this for several months, so a handful of them are going to go out here shortly. And then another batch, so keep them coming. SteelCityUnderground.com/helmetworthy. Go, Brian.
I gotta tell Gavin to leave his dad alone.
Yeah, settle down. We're working on it.
We get it. We've had a lot of submissions, which are great, and some of them have been fantastic. But some of them have been a little less effusive in why they should be helmet worthy. For example, simply saying, "Hi, I'm a fan. I'm helmet worthy." That's not going to get it, guys.
Yeah, and if you've already done that,
give us more.
You're going to have to go over and above now. We need to see you dancing in the streets of Pittsburgh or in front of Heinz Field or something in order to make up for that. It was just a severe. I hope they were using Siri and it just got cut off or something because it was just really not good.
Yeah, I think the first set we're going to try and do 5 that'll be June helmets, and then 5 that'll be July helmets, and 5 that'll be August helmets to carry us all the way through training camp. So the first 5 I think we'll probably announce Friday. which is the 6th of July,
something like that. Yeah,
so it'll be a little late, but we haven't done our voting yet. We just started our internal conversations on the 5 people who are going to get them for June. So we'll announce those on the Friday, the 6th, 7th, whatever the heck that date is. The 6th, I think.
It's a Friday, and if we miss it, we'll catch you. And if by all means, if you put one in and you didn't win, you're in the hopper there. We're rolling the thing like the bingo numbers. We're going to still keep calling numbers, so don't worry about it. You don't have to submit another one or send us threats or anything or hate mail.
Please don't do that.
No, please don't. Brian, it's okay. Don't send it to me. I'm fragile. It'll hurt my feelings. And speaking of which, I would hurt feelings. I'd be remiss to not mention that we now have, speaking of training camp and preseason, the Steelers preview book is out. The ebook is out, and you could get it on the Amazon Kindle store, the Apple iBook store, a few other places where ebooks are sold where they usually don't sell at all. Myself and Christina Rivers, Tina, helped compile this, and we have 94 players profiled because 3 guys are on injured reserve. We have a exchange student, so to speak, from the United Kingdom. That's a freak of nature rugby player. And then the other 90 guys that are on the pre-camp roster. So it's packed full of stuff. It's a labor of love. We put a lot of time, work, early mornings and long nights into it. So if you have a chance, check that out. Also, don't forget about the helmet-worthy thing. And Brian, thank you once again. We know it's a short show, but we couldn't BS as long as we are accustomed to. There's only so much you could say about David Carr being an idiot.
Right, he's a moron. I don't know what else to say about him, but it's always a pleasure. And let me give my 2 cents on this on the book. Tina was heavily involved. So as smart as Joe is, Tina's smarter than all of us. It's well worth your time and effort to take a read. The insight in this, I'm sure, will be well worth the price of admission, probably 4 or 5 times over.
Yes, 4 or 5 times over. And I got some other projects in the hopper too. I get really good feedback from a lot of emails coming in, not only the helmet worthy, but some other stuff that has to do with just going to games. So there'll be more information on that in the coming episodes and all over our platform. So stay tuned. Sorry to chew your ear off on a little bit of business stuff at the tail end here, but we know you got some hot dogs and burgers to grill. So until next time, be safe, especially in front of the grill. With those fireworks too, be good, and hopefully we'll catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.